Upon my arrival, the office was in utter disarray. Papers were scattered across desks, phones rang incessantly, and the usually calm atmosphere of the tax department had devolved into chaos. The receptionist's face lit up with relief the moment she saw me step through the glass doors. "Ms. Johnson, thank goodness you're here," she gasped. "The clients keep calling, saying they won't process their payments or reports until you come back." I walked past her without a word, my heels echoing sharply against the marble floor. My once familiar workspace now felt foreign, empty, cold, and utterly lifeless. The sense of pride and routine I had carried for nearly 4 decades had vanished with the simple cruelty of Tom and Emily's betrayal. Inside the president's office, both Tom and Emily stood pale and nervous. Gone were their confident smirks and mocking tones. The president, looking frazzled and worn, gestured for me to sit. "Ms. Johnson," he began, his voice trembling slightly, "since you left, nearly all of your clients have called to terminate their contracts. They refuse to deal with anyone else. Some even accused us of mishandling confidential documents and breaching trust." I tilted my head slightly. "And who's handling their files now?" I asked evenly, though I already knew the answer. Tom swallowed hard, his voice a whisper. We tried to divide them between ourselves, but the systems you set up were complicated. We couldn't locate half the necessary data." Emily added quickly, "It's not our fault. You didn't document your procedures clearly. Everything was just in your head." I let out a quiet sigh. "That's because I never thought I'd have to train people who refuse to listen," I replied calmly. "For years, I sent reports detailing how dependent the department had become on undocumented processes. None of you ever took them seriously." The president rubbed his temples. "Ms. Johnson, please, could you at least help us stabilize things, just temporarily? I'll reinstate your position and—" I raised my hand to stop him. "With all due respect, sir, I already resigned. I devoted 37 years of my life to this company. I tolerated harassment, overwork, and humiliation, all in the name of loyalty. I won't return to be the one to clean up someone else's mess again." The silence that followed was heavy. Tom shifted uncomfortably, and Emily avoided eye contact. I stood and began walking toward the door, but paused before leaving. "However," I said, turning slightly, "I'll give you one piece of advice. The foundation of our client trust wasn't built on contracts or speed, it was built on relationships. Every client I handled was treated as a partner, not a transaction. Until your people understand that, no policy or manual will save you." Then, without another word, I walked out. As I exited the building, I felt a strange mix of liberation and melancholy. For nearly 4 decades, this company had been my second home, a place where I poured my energy, my youth, and my identity. Yet now, standing under the pale afternoon sun, I realized I no longer owed it anything. 2 days later, my phone buzzed again, not from the company, but from a familiar voice. It was Mr. Hayashi, the CEO of one of my oldest clients. "Ms. Johnson," he greeted warmly, "I heard about what happened. I must say, their loss is our gain. If you're open to it, I'd like to offer you a consultancy contract. We trust you more than the company itself." I smiled faintly, the weight in my chest easing for the first time in weeks. "Thank you, Mr. Hayashi, I'd be honored." That night, as I looked over the city lights from my apartment window, I felt something I hadn't in a long time: peace. Tom and Emily's scheming had taken away my job, but they could never take away the decades of integrity and trust one had built. In the end, their ambition collapsed under the very arrogance that had blinded them. And me? I had finally stepped into a life free from their shadows, a life where my worth was no longer measured by overtime hours, but by the quiet, undeniable respect I had earned all along. As I stepped back into the company that morning, I could feel the tension in the air before even reaching the meeting room. The atmosphere was thick, suffocating, and the faces of Tom and Emily told me everything before a single word was spoken. They stood waiting for me near the conference table, both looking utterly drained. Their complexions were pale, their eyes hollow with sleeplessness. Emily's makeup could no longer hide the dark circles beneath her eyes, and Tom's once confident posture had crumbled into visible exhaustion. I paused, studying their disheveled appearance. "What's going on?" I finally asked, my voice calm but firm. Tom shot me a venomous glare, his tone brimming with frustration. "Since you left, the company's been flooded with calls, not just from your old clients, but from companies we were supposed to meet with. They're canceling everything, Lily, everything. What the hell did you do? Emily crossed her arms, bitterness lacing her trembling voice. We've been working around the clock to stop the cancellations. Don't pretend you had nothing to do with it. Did you tell the clients something before you left? I simply met their accusations with silence, letting their anger echo in the tense room. Though I hadn't reached out to anyone after my resignation, I had a strong suspicion of what was happening. Clients didn't trust systems, they trusted people, and after my departure, it was inevitable that those relationships would crumble. Tom's voice rose again, accusingly. Don't stand there pretending to be innocent. You must have planned this. Before I could respond, he grabbed my arm roughly. You're coming with us. The president wants to see you. Emily followed closely behind as Tom marched me down the hallway toward the president's office, his grip tightening with each step. I noticed how the office seemed quieter than usual, the faint hum of tension lingering in every corner. When we entered the room, the president was already waiting behind his desk, his eyes sharp and questioning. Tom announced, with forced authority, "President, I brought her." Emily nodded quickly, standing just behind him like an obedient shadow. The president gestured for us to sit. His tone was serious, measured. "Lily, can you explain why all these transactions are being halted? Since your resignation, nearly half our client companies have either paused or withdrawn their contracts." I inhaled deeply before speaking. "Sir, our clients never needed us to manage their taxes. They could have easily gone to cheaper firms. What kept them here was trust, the kind that's built through consistent communication and understanding of their unique situations." Tom scoffed loudly. "You're exaggerating your importance, Lily. You make it sound like the company revolves around you." Emily smirked faintly, adding, "Clients leave all the time. Maybe you just got lucky." I turned to them with a calm, unwavering look. Luck doesn't keep relationships for decades. Dedication does. The president remained silent, studying my expression. Then, after a long pause, he said, "Actually, there's something you both should know." Tom and Emily stiffened. "I received a call from my father last night," the president continued, his tone suddenly softer. "He said that several clients, including long-standing partners, contacted him directly, asking for your reinstatement. Lily, they said they wouldn't trust anyone else with their business." Tom's jaw dropped. Emily blinked rapidly, unable to process the words. The president went on, "My father told me that the tax department's success over the years was largely thanks to you, not only for your own clients but for the guidance you offered to others. He also mentioned that if you hadn't declined the promotion, you'd likely be sitting in a senior executive position today." A heavy silence filled the room. The only sound was the faint ticking of the wall clock. The president leaned back in his chair, rubbing his temple. "I made a mistake asking for your resignation. Lily, the company needs you. If you're willing, I'd like you to come back." Tom immediately exploded. "What? You can't be serious." He shot up from his seat, his voice trembling with outrage. "She's the one who caused this mess. Why should she get special treatment?" Emily quickly followed, clutching at his sleeve. "President, please reconsider. Tom's been leading the department since her resignation. He deserves credit for holding things together." The president's calm composure broke. He slammed a document onto the table, his tone sharp. "Holding things together? Do you mean delegating all your work to others and filing false overtime reports? Because I've reviewed every complaint since Lily left, and they all point to you too." Tom froze. Emily paled instantly, her lips quivering. The president continued, his voice rising with authority. "Several employees have reported being forced to take on extra work that wasn't theirs, and to make things worse, Tom," he turned sharply toward him, "you've been claiming company expenses for personal outings with Emily." Tom tried to speak, but no words came. Sweat trickled down his forehead. The president pulled out a few printed receipts. Dinner for two, hotel stays, spa visits, all claimed as business expenses. "Do you deny this?" Emily's hand trembled as she whispered, "It's not what it looks like." "It's exactly what it looks like," the president cut her off. "An affair between a superior and his subordinate, coupled with financial misconduct. Both of you have violated company policy and professional ethics." Tom's face drained of color. "Please. I have a family. I can't lose this job." Emily's voice cracked. "I didn't mean for any of this to happen. Please, give us another chance. I'll apologize to everyone. I'll even work unpaid hours if I have to." I watched the scene quietly, unmoved. When they turned to me for sympathy, I finally spoke. "Why keep fighting a battle you've already lost? It's undignified." You both wanted me gone, now you're facing the same truth you created for others. Tom glared at me, his voice breaking. Shut up, you wouldn't understand, you've never had to support a family. I looked at him calmly. Maybe not, but I understand consequences. You made your bed, Tom, now you have to lie in it. He looked away, defeated, while Emily covered her face, her shoulders shaking. The president rose from his chair, his decision final. Tom Anderson, Emily Reed, effective immediately. You're both terminated. Security will escort you out after you clear your desks. Tom collapsed into his chair, staring blankly at the floor. Emily sobbed quietly, whispering apologies that no one acknowledged. After they left, the president turned to me, exhaustion etched across his features. Lily, I don't know how to make this right. All I can say is that you were the backbone of this department. I hope someday you can forgive us. I offered a polite smile. You don't owe me forgiveness, sir, just learn from it. People aren't replaceable commodities. As I left the building, the weight that had clung to me for months finally lifted. The crisp air outside felt different, freer, cleaner. Weeks later, I heard the rest of the story through former colleagues. Tom's affair with Emily became public knowledge, ending his marriage. Both of them were blacklisted from the industry, unable to find stable jobs. Eventually, they resorted to day labor to survive, a far cry from the pride they once paraded around the office. Emily even called me once, sobbing through the phone. Lily, please. I never meant to hurt you, I just wanted to succeed. I listened quietly before replying, and now you've learned that success built on cruelty never lasts. When the call ended, I felt no hatred, only a deep, quiet pity. The president later offered to rehire me, but I declined. I had no desire to return to the world that had once discarded me. Instead, I began helping out at a small tax office owned by a friend, a peaceful environment where respect was mutual and genuine. Months passed, and I eventually opened my own firm, a modest but growing office that thrived on fairness and transparency. My clients, many of whom had followed me from my old company, often said they finally felt understood. I no longer worked for approval, overtime, or titles. I worked for myself, and for the people who trusted me. As I locked up my new office one quiet evening, the setting sun bathed the windows in warm orange light. For the first time in years, I smiled, not with relief, but with pride. My second life had begun, not as an employee, but as a woman who had reclaimed her dignity, her purpose, and her peace.